Did I know that actually, as I was being adorned with this gala, I was also being given a very valuable piece of jewelry, a real diamond at the end here. So there's a diamond here, and those who are jealous, please don't be too jealous today. I've been given something very special. No, it's not a diamond, it's a nice piece of something that looks like a diamond. So I feel really honored to be amongst you and to be honored in this way. So as I take it off, I want to preserve it so that I can go and show my wife when I get home. So don't feel that I'm actually losing it. Comrades and friends, it's a real joy to be amongst you. I want to start off with extending the apology that Comrade Sihle has already put forward. I was meant to be here some weeks ago, and I know how disappointed many of you were that finally I couldn't make it. I couldn't make it because of the reasons that were outlined by Comrade Sihle. And I would have loved to have been here, but I'm glad to get this opportunity today. I'm going to be very brief because I know you want to engage in a conversation with the President. And I want to devote enough time for that. At the very least, we should have up to 45 minutes having this type of conversation. Now, this year is a very important year in our life as a country and as a movement. But it is also a very special year for the community of Chatsworth, because it is public knowledge that the community of Chatsworth occupied a very special place in the heart of President Nelson Mandela. So as we celebrate the centenary of Nelson Mandela, today when we are here, we remember him very fondly because you occupied as a community a very special place in his heart. It is this special bond that this community shared with Madiba that led him to spearhead efforts of fundraising and even went to the extent of personally donating resources that resulted in the building of this center. And as I came in, I just saw the name, and it dawned on me indeed that this is a very special place, not only just here in Chatsworth, but also in the hearts of many people here in Chatsworth. And we are particularly pleased to be celebrating Nelson Mandela's centenary and Albertina Sisulu's centenary, because these were two gigantic leaders in our struggle, and they worked with outstanding leaders such as Kada Asmal, Ahmed Kathrada, Monty Naidka, Rahima Musa, and Yusuf Dadu, and many, many others. All of them remain committed to the ANC and to the ideals that the ANC stood for. And it is in this that we learn important lessons from Nelson Mandela's life, because Nelson Mandela was about reconciliation, he was about forgiveness. He was a person who demonstrated his deep compassion for the people of this country and indeed for many other downtrodden people around the world. He was unwavering in his love for fellow human beings, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, creed, social orientation, region of origin, tribe, clan, or whatever. And Madiba loved humanity so deeply that he has taught us many lessons that we need to follow. Another great lesson we draw from Madiba is that he was unflinching in his commitment to the political program of his liberation movement, the objectives of which are to build a non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous South Africa. The words from his message on Reconciliation Day in 1995 remain relevant, and they also remain true to this day, because he said, "We, the people of South Africa, have made a decisive and irreversible break with the past. We have," he continued, "in real life declared our shared allegiance to justice, non-racialism, and democracy. Our yearning for a peaceful and harmonious nation is one of those ideals we yearn for. The rainbow has come to be the symbol of our nation. We are turning the variety of our languages and cultures, once used to divide us, into a source of strength and richness. But we do know that healing the wounds of the past and freeing ourselves of its burden will be a long and demanding task." Close quotes. Those words by Nelson Mandela remain true up to this day. The ANC itself places a high value on non-racialism. It is common knowledge that the history of the ANC is a history of a struggle against racism. This struggle against apartheid was the struggle against the oppression of the black majority, a majority that has always been composed of Africans, colored people in our country, of Indians, united in its negation of apartheid. This black majority always shared a common fate, and this therefore meant the liberation of one group meant the liberation of the other. Now, with time, particularly in the recent few years, the ANC went through a number of processes. In some cases, people would say changes. And in some cases, as the Secretary General of the ANC, in his report to the conference in December last year, admitted that a number of weaknesses had seeped into the body politic of the organization. And some of those manifested themselves in the weakening of our adherence to certain values that were established by our forebears when they established the ANC. Values that were like the pillars of strength to the ANC. And one of those values was the weakening to the adherence, as Comrade Sihle was saying earlier, to non-racialism. Non-racialism, for some reasons, started taking a back seat, and we were no longer talking about non-racialism as fervently as we used to. In our programs, we started seeing non-racialism becoming weaker and weaker. In the collection of people who participated in programs of the African National Congress, we started seeing less and less of other groups that have always been part and parcel of the diversity that Nelson Mandela was talking about. And with time, as this weekend, we saw that indeed the ANC's appeal was becoming weaker and weaker in a number of other groups. And post the 2017 conference, we decided that having gone through all those weaknesses, having gone through their debilitating effect on the ANC needed to renew itself. The ANC needed to unite itself, and the ANC needed to come up with policies that are going to respond to the majority of our people. And it was for this reason that we came up with a resolution to renew the African National Congress. Now, renewing the ANC means we go back to the values of the African National Congress. We go back to the values that the ANC founders inscribed in the soul of the ANC. The values of integrity, values of honesty, the values of truthfulness, and over time, we must admit that that had weakened. That had weakened, and many formations and people in our country had started questioning themselves whether the ANC is indeed the leader of society. And at the 54th conference, we decided that we are going to reclaim our space of honor and our place of honor of the African National Congress, and that the ANC is going to once again be a values-based organization. That the ANC is going to be governed by values of integrity, values of truthfulness, values of honesty. At that conference, we vowed that one of the things that we are going to do as we renew ourselves in the way that we work, in the way that we speak, in the way that we function, is to be irrevocably against anything that is going to militate against the values of the ANC. For instance, that we are going to completely stand against corruption, and those amongst us who are corrupt will be dealt with. The conference took a very clear resolution on that, because it realized that we had moved away from those wonderful values. And in order for us to return to those values, we've got to rid the African National Congress of corrupt activities, corrupt actions, and indeed corrupt people within our ranks. And that is important. The ANC also decided that in doing so, we are going to renew the way we work. We are going to begin once again the process of reaching out to various formations, because the ANC has always been the parliament of our people. It has always been the broad church of our people that welcomes everyone, the broad church that also embraces everyone, and the broad church that cares for everyone within its ranks. And that is what had weakened. Now, we decided that renewal means we're reaching out. We're going to be meeting our people once again. We're going to go into all the four corners of our country and meet our structures, those who were in the mass democratic movement with us. We're going to engage with them once again. We want to listen to them. We want to hear them criticize us. We want to hear them speak right out and tell this movement that they have always loved the truth and nothing else but the truth. We want them to speak directly and to speak as sharply as possible. What it means is that we want to engage with all formations, religious bodies, sporting bodies, professional bodies. We spent this morning meeting with professional organizations in Maritzburg, interacting with them, engaging them to help us draft our manifesto. And wow, were they forthcoming? They were forthcoming. They came forward with ideas. And Comrade Mike Mabuyakulu urged them. He said, be as forthright as possible, but do it with love. Don't do it with venom. Don't do it with hatred. Tell us the absolute truth and underpin that with love and affection that you have for our movement. So renewal means that we are going out, and that is why I was so disappointed I couldn't come last time. But we want to come back here many more times to reach out, to deal with the real issues that are of concern. Where, for instance, we have seen in real effect non-racialism weakening, we must deal with it. And where we have seen racism raising its ugly head, we must deal with it. And we have seen it happening many a times. And where we have seen the weakening Nelson Mandela's values, we must deal with it. And this is the African National Congress that you have always known. It is back, it is here, it is ready to engage with you, it is here to touch your hearts, it is here to touch your souls, it is here to even touch your hand. Come forward and walk with the ANC once again. That is the call that we are making to you today. Now, in doing all this, we must also have the courage to deal with difficult issues, to deal with issues that are problematic in our country. We should not run away from those issues. We are the African National Congress. We don't run away from problems. Whatever nature the problems are, we must deal with them. Comrade Sihle just raised one issue of those people who are going around in the name of radical economic transformation, engaging in terrible acts of stopping construction sites, demanding to be given stakes in companies because of radical economic transformation. And I say that is not radical economic transformation. That is radical economic theft and robbery. And we are going to stop it. And I'm glad that the chairperson of our ANC here in this province is standing firm on this, because we've seen it happening here in this province. And we are here to support him, to support the leadership of the province. We are going to stop it. We are going to root it out. We will not allow it to happen, not in South Africa. We are not going to allow people to use our policies to achieve their own terrible ends of radical economic theft and robbery and malpractices. So Comrade Sihle has our full support in this, and we are going to be issuing an instruction to our law enforcement agencies that they must act without fear or favor and stop all those who are utilizing this type of method to pounce on working sites, to stop works, to go to companies and demand that they should be given stakes because they happen to be black. That we are not going to allow. One other issue that we are having to deal with now is that those people in various structures and organizations who have done wrong, as we now begin to take action against them, as we begin to take action and say, you have been participating in wrong things, are now using the race card and saying, you are taking action against us because we are this race and that race, forgetting the fact that they are actually doing wrong things and are plundering the resources of our people. And we are saying we are going to continue standing on the side of our people. We are going to stand on the side of preserving the resources of the Republic, and we are going to act against those who are plundering and misusing the resources. And I want this to be a clear message, a very clear message to those who still want to perpetrate those acts of malfeasance, malpractice, wastage, theft, and so forth, that your days are numbered. This is coming to an end. We are not going to allow that. And we are going to take action. Because it is important as a country that we should be known to be a country where there is a rule of law. We should be a country where there is consequence management. If you have done something wrong, you must know that you have acted against the people of this country, and there must be consequences, and you must be accountable. The days of non-accountability have to come to an end, and I'm saying they have come to an end because we are not going to allow people to do things without being accountable. We are involved in a process of not only renewing our movement, but we are involved in a process of uniting our movement. We are going throughout the country post the December conference, which was a process that created quite a number of divisions. But we are saying we are stronger when we are united. We are weaker when we are divided. And we're calling on all our structures that we should unite. When we are united, we are able to advance the programs of the African National Congress. When we are divided, then we get into all sorts of areas of weakness. So we are finding ways of uniting our movement. Here in KZN, we held a most successful provincial conference, which united comrades from different perspectives, different backgrounds, different experiences. We succeeded in uniting them. And it is when they have become united that they are finding the pleasure, the absolute pleasure of working together. Comrade Sihle and Comrade Mabuya Kulu are working so well together. They are like brother and brother, and maybe they are, we don't know. Maybe they are children of the same mother, but maybe they don't know too. But they are working very well together, and that is the unity that we have forged. And we are particularly pleased because when the ANC in the province is united, when the ANC in the regions of the whole province are united, that is when the ANC gains traction. That is when it addresses the needs of our people. And so the unity project is going on around the country. We are forging it. We are making sure that it's united. Our detractors, of course, would have us divided. They prefer it when we are divided, when we are not seeing eye to eye, when we are arguing. And as we lead to the elections next year, you are going to find the ANC becoming more cohesive, more coherent, more united, speaking more and more with one voice. And you are going to find the ANC that now begins more and more to appeal to our people as a whole. And in the end, we are finding that our people are actually becoming more and more endeared to the African National Congress. They are finding that, yes, this is the organization that they have always loved. And the period from February up till now, people have been feeling in high spirits. Yes, those high spirits are now being tampered with by the state of our economy. They are being tampered with some of the economic issues that are affecting the lives of our people, which I will speak about in a little bit. So, post the 54th conference, I believe that we are onto something really good. We are onto uniting the ANC, renewing the ANC, and cleaning up our act, and making the ANC that voice of the voiceless in our country, making the ANC the representative of the downtrodden in our country, and making the African National Congress the leader of society once again. And we are reaching out to everyone. We are reaching out to all and sundry and saying, we are open. We are open for, yes, both business, but we are also open for love back. We are saying, love back. We want the love that you once had for the ANC to come back. Bring it back, and we want it now. And that is where we stand. Now, recently, because we have a number of challenges. We have a number of challenges, and sometimes we become so focused on the challenges that we lose the bigger picture. We become so focused on small things that are important in our lives, but then we lose the bigger picture and we think it is all lost. I had the joy recently of reading a report which was issued by the South African Institute of Race Relations. And now the Institute of Race Relations is a research organization. It is the most they do the most comprehensive economic and social research in the whole country, more than any other university or any other center. And they have been pondering on a number of issues, and some of those have had to do with the negativity that they say a number of people have in our country. Because sometimes people often say, oh, you said you will give us a better life. Where is this better life? Oh, you said you are a rainbow nation. Where is that rainbow nation? It went with Mandela. There's no longer any rainbow nation. Oh, you said we will have economic growth. Where is that economic growth? They have been pondering about precisely this, and they recently produced a report, and I'm going to read you just a small portion of what they have said. And they said in the course of their work, they have also been confronted with considerable evidence of real substantive progress in building a better country. This is, they say, not cherry picking. Some successes there and here. All the trends that follow, that they set out in their report, and you can Google it, you can find it on the net, are examples of substantive improvements in economic performance and the living standards of millions of South Africans, which have been sustained over a long time. Over the past decade, they say, that story was lost. We lost sight of that story of how Nelson Mandela took us out of slavery, out of oppression, and led us into a new South Africa. We lost sight of that story. The tone, they say, and the inflection of media and other reports and activist commentary became predominantly negative. And they say, with good reason, but we became concerned that balance was being lost, and that amidst the fears and frustrations South Africans would come to believe that they had failed in the main at what so many people had bravely set out to do in 1994. And they continue that, they say, we felt that the nature of the climate of public opinion was such that it was necessary to produce a document that would remind South Africans and those who watch us from abroad that despite our troubles, we are also a country in which a lot has gone right. A country in which the majority of black and white people have found a way to work together to make the future a better place. That quiet majority deserves a lot of credit for the things that have gone right and can justly be proud of what has been achieved. Their experience must inspire us to face and overcome the obstacles that lie ahead. Now, quite often, we often think that the glass is empty, or near empty, or half empty. And yet, the South African Institute of Race Relations tells us, by studying very, very closely and carefully what we have been through as a nation, they tell us that, hey, you South Africans, stop beating yourself to the ground. Stop being overcritical of yourselves. You have come from far, and your glass is not empty or half empty. Your glass is half full. You have achieved a phenomenal amount because you have improved the lives of so many people in your country. That is what has happened to us. Now, I cite this because I've just come back from China. In China, they have 1.3 billion people. They have been able to lift 300 million people out of poverty. And President Xi Jinping was saying to me, over the next 5 years, they have to lift 30 more million people out of poverty. And that is his focus. He says we are focused on that. But then he looks back. He said, you look at the China of today. We are a very different China of 1978. 1979, when Deng Xiaoping led this country, we started seeing a sea change. We started changing. And today we can see that we are moving forward. And they want to become a moderately successful country in another 20 years. And when I listened to him, I said, you know, we should start thinking in the way that they think. We have to focus on lifting those South Africans amongst us who still live in poverty. Those are the ones that we must focus on lifting. But at the same time, we have created a middle class in our country. We have been successful. I promise you, there aren't many countries on the African continent who can claim to have succeeded in creating the type of middle class that we have created today. There aren't any. And what do we count that we have done? We built more than 4 million houses and given them out to our people. That is a phenomenal achievement. When I keep telling a number of leaders that that's what we have done, we've given houses, 4.3 million, away to our people, they say that's unheard of in the world. And I said, yes, it is heard of in South Africa, because we are South Africans. We are going to do good by our people. We are going to make sure that we give them the best that life can offer. And that is what we are committed to do. We've also, just last year, this year, we gave our young people free education. Even as we didn't have resources, even as we were short of resources, we said nothing but the best for the children of our country, from poor families and working class families. We are going to give you free higher education. And today, thousands of young people now have free higher education. And that is a committed country to change and transformation. That is how we are moving forward. Now, we've done a whole number of other things which I will not cite because we don't have all the time. What are our challenges? The challenges that lie ahead for us are jobs. We've got to create jobs, particularly for the young people in our country. If there's anything that keeps me awake day in and day out, is the unemployment challenge that we face in our country. How we can create jobs for young people, how we can empower the youth of our country, and how we can eradicate poverty and inequality in our country. That is the challenge that we face. But the other challenge is how we can make sure that the state works effectively for our people. It delivers the best services for our people. How we can make local government work especially properly for our people, because that is where we have a weakness. Our local government is dysfunctional, but we are addressing this. Not all of them are dysfunctional. Here in KZN, wonderful stories of a number of municipalities beginning to get their acts together and beginning to tackle the problems. Right now, we're now looking at how the people that we have deployed in a number of areas, in finance and all that, whether they are fit to do the work or they are not fit to do the work. That research is going ahead. We are going to make sure that we get well experienced and qualified people to do the work that needs to be done to deliver services to our people. That we are going to do. Now, all this we are doing, compatriots, friends and colleagues, we are doing because we want to deliver a South Africa that is going to give our people a better life. We're looking at the economy. Right now, we're going through serious economic challenges. High fuel prices, the rand-dollar exchange not in our favor. Right now, we've got a technical recession with our growth having dipped, with the hope that we are going to revamp our agricultural sector so that it performs better in the next quarter and give us the necessary boost that our economy needs. But in the process of all this, we also have to restructure our economy. We also have to restructure it and bring in black people into the economy as owners, as managers, as controllers of our economy. Because when we do that, that is when we create a bigger economy, an economy that is inclusive and supports everyone in terms of growth. We have to revamp our state-owned enterprises. Comrade Pravin Gordhan has got his job cut out. What he inherited is one of the biggest messes that you can ever imagine. But we are grateful that he's put his shoulder to the wheel and he is going through every state-owned enterprise, cleaning it up, making sure that we have good state-owned enterprises. Comrades, that is what we have to do. This is renewal. Renewal means we renew in the African National Congress, but we also need to renew in the state superstructure. We've got to start doing things differently so that what happened in the past should become a distant shadow. What happened in the recent past should become a distant shadow. We've got to move away quickly, almost like running away from a burning house. We are making progress in that regard. One of the things we are going to have to do is to reevaluate our policies, reform our policies, where our policies had come out of sync with what we need to do to engender economic growth. We are addressing that. We are attending to that. All the ministers are looking very closely at policy parameters, policy frameworks, to make sure that we revamp our policies and make sure that we reposition our country and our economy for growth. For instance, whenever we have met investors, one of the things they've raised is policy certainty. They say there's no policy certainty in South Africa, and some of them have even raised visas. They say, we want to come and invest in your country, but the visa regime that you have stops us from doing so. We are attending to that. We are attending to it because we want to attract a lot of tourists, particularly here in KZN, the Mecca of tourism. KZN is the Mecca of tourism, and we want all those dollars to come here in KZN. That's what I want. I want everyone who comes from all over, Europe, China, wherever, they must come with bagfuls of dollars. And I want them to leave them here in KZN and make sure that we create jobs. So we now have to revamp our policy framework to make sure that we become attractive. But we also have to reform some of our own laws, procurement laws. Comrade Sihle was raising this, that if we really want to foster economic empowerment amongst our people, we've got to look at our procurement laws, because our procurement laws right now are not such that they can ensure that our people get into business a lot easily. So we are doing all that. We are a government at work. We are looking at every area. Now, with the economic challenges that we face, we are working on a stimulus package through which we are going to respond to the current challenge that we have. And that will become evident in days or so. So we are a government that just does not sit back and take the punches and move punch drunk from one corner of the room to the other. We are a government, yes, that takes the punches, but we come back with a response. And the response has to be empowerment of our young people, bringing our young people into jobs, empowerment of women, addressing the challenges that the women of our country are facing. Women in our country, who form, by the way, the majority population cohort in our country, are still harboring and suffering under a great deal of problems and challenges. They are abused at home, they are abused in the public space, they are also abused at work. They don't get equal pay for equal work. They are not given opportunities for land ownership. They are not given opportunities for promotion and all that. And we are saying we want the women of our country to be well empowered so that they can play their rightful role in the life of our country and in the economy of our country. I'm glad that we're going to have a gender summit in a number of weeks where the women of our country are going to put programs to the nation, programs that are aimed at addressing their own situation, where they want us as men to join them, to empower them, where they want us as men to teach our young boys how they must deport themselves on gender issues. Now, our country is coming into a wonderful conversation, a great conversation of how we can address the challenges that our women face. In October, we are going to have an investment conference where we are continuing our campaign to raise $100 billion, 1.4 trillion rand that should come into our economy in the next 5 years. This is a task which I have said we should all own. We've been going around the world, but most of the investment we want to come from us as South Africans, because we need to make South Africans feel that they can invest once again in their economy. And that we are going to do on the 25th. We're inviting the world to come. We're inviting many corporates to participate. And in China, I also invited Jack Ma of Alibaba to come to South Africa, and he has agreed that he's coming. And he will also set up a training center to empower small and medium enterprise people so that they can start trading and selling whatever they make. So the pathways are becoming more and more open for us to be able to inject some growth in the economy of our country. And I see the growth that will be generated in our country beginning to lift many boats, beginning to create jobs, beginning to empower black people in as far as running and owning their businesses is concerned. Lastly, I want to touch on a wonderful campaign that we launched this morning. This morning, as you heard, we walked for 5 kilometers, and this walk this time was the most meaningful walk. This time we were not walking for fun. We were walking to go and launch a campaign, Kwamashu, to make sure that we deal with the challenge of crime. There's been a lot of criminality in that area, and we got a number of young police officers trained, and today we were launching them into the community to go and work in the community to reduce the levels of crime. What was beautiful about it was that the community was there. It was a community-owned campaign. They immediately embraced those police officers. I think we had 105 of them. We're still going to get 400 or 500 more who are going to be launched all over Tegwini here. So in areas where you live, where there might be challenges with safety, we can say that the days of criminality are coming to an end here in Tegwini, because we are becoming much more serious, much more focused. We are now going to go after the criminals. We are going to catch them. We are going to deal with them. They are going to find very little space to move or to maneuver. This we have to do because our people deserve a safe living area, a safe working area, and a safe place for our children to play and to learn and to go to school. So I look forward to coming back to KZN to participate in more walks, and may you all join in as we embark on these walks, because that is when citizenry comes to the fore, where we all participate and own the spaces that we live in, and own the processes that we are engaged in, and own the country that we so love, and make sure that we participate in everything in our country that happens, so that our voices can be heard, so that our walks and our feet can be felt, because this is the only country we have. This is the South Africa of Nelson Mandela, and we've got to continue building this country. This country must live up to the ideals that Nelson Mandela spoke about. So colleagues and compatriots, we've got great opportunities. And I want you, much as it is cloudy today and raining, I don't want you to feel gloomy. All is not lost in our country. All is looking up. Let us go and grab those opportunities of engagement, grab those opportunities of ensuring that you participate in the structures of our movement and you participate in your democratic structures throughout and be part of the change that you want to see. Be part of that change. And as we move to next year, as we draft our manifesto, we want you to be part of that. As we move to next year, we must go out in our big numbers because the ANC is back. The ANC is here. The ANC wants you to embrace it. The ANC wants you to be part of everything that is happening. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here amongst you. Amanda.
Thank you, President, for that powerful message of inspiration, motivation, and indeed renewal. Before I open the floor for some space for engagement, let me, Mr. President, recognize people who do work, and we recognize the national, and we recognize the provincial, and we recognize the regional.
Well, you're locked on to the SABC News channel this Saturday. What you're seeing there is a live crossing to Chatsworth. It's a historically Indian township located about 14 kilometers southwest of the city of Durban in the Mslatuzana River Valley. It's where South African President Cyril Ramaphosa...
Many of the efforts that we do to this kind of sectoral work. I also want to recognize our stalwarts.
Meeting in early July. Overall, this afternoon, a strong call by the President for unity and renewal of the African National Congress, combating high levels of crime and women empowerment and the need for gender equity, also featuring strongly in this address. He did acknowledge that there are a number of challenges that present themselves, but he was overall optimistic that things will look up in the country soon. Now, this meeting forms part of the Tumamina campaign, a national initiative aimed at encouraging a spirit of volunteerism in a bid to address the challenges facing South Africa. He also encouraged Chatsworth residents to speak directly and honestly to the ANC leadership and share their concerns openly.
Welcome, Comrade. Now, Comrade, we're going to have to manage time. I know that everybody would like to speak. I want to assure you that we've received